Hey, y'all supposed to be out of your seats?
Hey man, we just getting up so you clean the gum off the bottom of my chairs.
The first day this man walked into school, the students thought he was a joke. No tie, no confidence, no control over the classroom. Just an older man carrying a dusty chessboard while teenagers laughed in his face. One student even stood up and told him to quit before he embarrassed himself. And honestly, it looked like he might, because this wasn't a respected teacher. This was a man fresh out of prison, trying to rebuild a life nobody believed deserved rebuilding. But what those kids didn't know was that the quiet man they were mocking had survived things far more dangerous than a classroom full of bullies. He had spent years locked inside a cell, watched his entire life collapse, lost his family, lost his future, and nearly lost himself. Most people leave prison broken. Eugene Brown came out with a plan, because he realized something terrifying. The same streets destroying these teenagers were the exact streets that once destroyed him, and he refused to let history repeat itself. What started as a small chess club inside one violent school would soon turn into a battle for survival, respect, and second chances. And before this story was over, the students who mocked him the most would become willing to fight for him. This is the true story of a man everyone underestimated until he changed lives using nothing but a chessboard.
The king is your life. One mistake, and it can be taken.
Washington, D.C., the kind of school where hope walks in on Monday and quits by Friday. Eugene Brown steps through the front doors of Theodore Roosevelt High School like a man carrying weight nobody can see. No briefcase, no polished introduction, just a worn chessboard tucked under one arm, and a past he hasn't volunteered to anyone. The hallways are loud and hostile. Students shove past him. A security guard waves him through without looking up. Teachers keep their eyes down in the corridor. This is a school that has already decided what it is and what it isn't. Eugene is a substitute, a nobody, a placeholder. And every student in that building is about to make this same mistake. He walks into the classroom. The noise doesn't stop. Nobody sits down. Papers fly. A desk scrapes hard against the floor. And right in the middle of it all, Monroe. 16 years old, sharp enough to read a room in 3 seconds, angry enough to use what he reads. Monroe looks at Eugene the way you look at something you've already decided doesn't matter. You're just another sub. Yeah, sit down anyway. The room laughs. Monroe doesn't move. Most teachers fold right here, file the incident report, collect the substitute pay, never return. But Eugene doesn't raise his voice, doesn't call administration. He simply sets the chessboard on the desk, slowly, deliberately, and stares back at Monroe like he's already 3 moves ahead. There's something about his stillness that cuts through the noise. What nobody in that room understands yet is that this man has already been through something that makes a disruptive teenager look like mild weather, and introduces chess not as a classroom activity, but as a mirror. Every single move you make has a consequence, just like out there. Half the class is still laughing, but Monroe just slightly leans forward. Eugene catches it, files it away, keeps moving. Over the next several days, the resistance escalates. Chess pieces go missing. A board gets flipped. One student calls him a fraud directly to his face. Another spreads rumors through the hallway. But Eugene keeps showing up. Every morning, every period, every single day. What these kids don't know yet, What they couldn't possibly know is that the man they're trying to break has already survived something that would have destroyed most people long before they ever set foot in a classroom. And that secret is about to walk right through the door.
You trust me?
I trust you.
Monroe starts asking around, talks to the right people, pulls the right thread, and what he finds shifts the entire dynamic of that room. Eugene Brown was incarcerated. He didn't come from a university office or a comfortable background. He came from a prison cell. He knows what it means to have every door close. He understands the language of consequences because he lived them, paid for them, and somehow found his way back. The school administration gets wind of it too. Suddenly, Eugene isn't just managing a difficult classroom, he's fighting the institution itself. The vice principal calls him in. The conversation is clipped, cold, loaded with liability language and institutional concern. You're a risk to this school. These kids need someone who actually understands their world. Their world doesn't include someone with your record. The tension in that office is suffocating. The vice principal isn't entirely wrong, but neither is Eugene, and they both know it. Eugene doesn't plead, doesn't perform remorse. He looks directly across that desk and says something quiet that stops the conversation entirely. Chess teaches you that even a pawn can take down a king if it's willing to keep moving forward. He walks out. But this battle is far from over because the administration doesn't drop it, and the students, now knowing exactly who is standing in front of them, have a decision to make. Before we go any further, 99 out of 100 people watching this right now won't hit subscribe. But you just watched a man with every reason to stay hidden walk back in anyway. That kind of story doesn't show up on accident. Subscribing costs you nothing. Staying means every story like this lands directly with you. Don't be the one who watched but never stayed. Join the ones who do.
Why is he so attached to Clifton?
Man, you know Clifton was always the biggest kid in the class. It's been like that since we was babies.
Something changes after that office confrontation. Monroe starts staying after class, not because anyone forced him, because for the first time in his academic life, someone is treating his mind like it actually has value. Other students notice. Some of them follow. But just when something real begins forming inside those four walls, the school moves to shut the chess program down entirely. Budget cuts, policy violations, risk language, all the institutional vocabulary that translates to, "We don't believe in these kids enough to invest in their future." Eugene refuses to stop. He builds the team unofficially. No funding, no administrative support, just students who suddenly have something worth showing up for, and a teacher who won't let the system be the final word. To make matters worse, Monroe's home life is fracturing. His mother is barely keeping things together. The streets outside school are making promises that feel more reliable than anything inside it. Eugene watches Monroe standing at the exact intersection he once stood at himself. One wrong move, that's all it takes. And the clock is ticking. Eugene enters the team in a regional chess tournament. Students from one of the most underfunded schools in Washington, D.C., going up against kids with private coaches, premium equipment, and every advantage money quietly buys. On paper, this isn't a competition. It's a statement about who the world thinks deserves to win. But Eugene didn't prepare them for the game. He prepared them for the pressure. The tournament begins. Monroe sits across from an opponent who radiates inherited confidence, pressed blazer, practiced posture, the kind of boy the world decided was a winner before he ever touched a chess piece. Monroe doesn't blink. He sees the board, not the opponent, not the audience, not the weight of everything behind him, just the board. What happens in the next 10 minutes makes everyone who ever wrote Monroe off look like they missed the most obvious thing in the room. The team advances, word spreads, and here's where the story gets quietly infuriating. The same administration that tried to remove Eugene, the same vice principal who called him a liability, begins positioning the school as if it supported this all along. The language shifts, the credit redistributes, the institution finds its way into the narrative it tried to erase. Eugene notices, absorbs it, keeps moving. Monroe pulls him into the hallway one evening after practice. "Why do you keep coming back, for real?" "Because somebody should have done this for me a long time ago, and they didn't." That answer lands like something heavy, dropped from a great height. Monroe has no response. He just nods, slowly, and in that single hallway moment, no board, no tournament, no audience, the entire soul of this movie lives and breathes. The championship is within reach. But the night before the final match, Monroe nearly doesn't show. Something happened at home, the kind of thing that unravels weeks of carefully built calm in a single evening. The streets offered him an exit, familiar danger, easy money, the kind of logic that feels reasonable when everything else feels impossible. Eugene finds him, not at school, on a street corner, at night. No chessboard, no classroom, no institutional protection between them. Just a man who already made the wrong choice once, standing in front of a boy who is seconds away from making the same one. Eugene doesn't deliver a speech, doesn't perform wisdom. He confesses. He tells Eugene exactly who he was, exactly what that life cost him, exactly why he walked back into a school that had every reason to keep him out. Eugene listens, and then he walks back inside. The championship match plays out like everything these students have earned. Monroe is composed, strategic, unreadable, every sacrifice deliberate, every move 10 thoughts deep. The final move is made. The room goes quiet. Then it erupts. The school never fully apologized. The system never meaningfully changed. The streets outside those walls are exactly the same streets. But Monroe graduates, and the Eugene's program Eugene built from nothing, no budget, no institutional blessing, no clean record to wave around, becomes a model replicated in schools across the country. Because it turns out, a man who lost everything sometimes understands better than anyone exactly how to teach others not to. The bullies picked on the new teacher, not knowing the new teacher had already survived something none of them could imagine and came back anyway. Not for recognition, not for redemption in any simple sense, for the move that matters most, the one that says, "You're not done yet." The board was always just the beginning. A man they tried to throw away walked back in and turned overlooked kids into champions. That's not just inspiration, that's a strategy, and it works every single time. But here's the thing about men who survive what they shouldn't. The most dangerous ones are usually the quietest ones in the room. A Brooklyn bartender finds a beaten puppy bleeding inside a trash can and brings it home. Sounds simple, but the man who put it there just knocked on his door and said he wants it back. And the strangest part? Oh, nobody can figure out why Bob Saganowski isn't scared. That video is right there. Click it. Find out why everyone who underestimated Bob deeply and permanently regretted it.